right, well, welcome everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Local Alcohol and Drug Planning Committee. My name is Eric Geyer. I chair this meeting, and I also am the director of Jackson County Community Justice. Our first order of business on the agenda is a roll call of members, and so then I will we'll move on from there. But Jennifer, good to see you, and if you wouldn't mind seeing how we're doing on membership.
Sure. Jack Adkins.
Present.
Okay. Ron Dunn. I believe he had an excused absence. Eric Geyer.
Here.
Justin Hahn.
Present.
Amanda Eisenhower. Rosemary Jernigan.
Here.
Lisa McCready. Michael O'Malley.
Here.
Heather Phil.
Here.
Nick Wrighton also had an excused absence. Sarah Smith. I see you. You're on mute.
That's why you're looking at me patiently. Yes, I am here.
Thank you.
And that is our membership for today. We do not have a quorum, so we won't do things like approving the minutes, but we have a number of people who will be introducing themselves as we go through our call out. I do want to welcome and give a shout out to Laura Atkins from Department of Human Services Child Welfare. We've been colleagues since I think 2002, and you are in a new role currently as the treatment lead for child welfare. Is that fair to say? Did I get it close? Okay, good. Well, welcome, and it's great seeing you here. So thanks for making it. We're going to have three separate presentations today. The first one is going to be from Pathfinders. The second one will be from the Oregon Health Authority about 110 implementation. And then the third one will be from Prime Peer through HIV Alliance. So it will be a jam-packed agenda, and I'm really grateful for everybody that's here. But really the Pathfinder project began from some of the work that was done through a community group called the Breakfast Club. It was originally called the Directors Table. They self-named themselves the Breakfast Club. Justin Hahn was instrumental in the leadership around that and bringing on this idea that if we had people with lived experience ingrained in the work at parole and probation, it would be a different experience for those people who are on supervision, leading to more likely connections to treatment, a different interface, less trauma, and really kind of that piece that would be so effective at engaging the people that are served through community justice. And so we're very lucky that they are here in our community, and I'm going to kick it over to Leticia Longoria Navarra and have her talk about that program. But thank you all for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. Hello, everyone. Like Eric said, my name is Leticia. I'm the Executive Director for the Pathfinder Network. We have programs across the state, and just really excited to be expanding to Jackson County to do some really important partnership, obviously create a great impact and partner with some of all of you. I'm also going to introduce two of my colleagues that are here with me today. So Dustin, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Dustin Furtado. I'm the peer support manager here in Jackson County.
My name is Tiffany Atkinson. I'm the lead peer support specialist here in Jackson County.
Excellent. Thank you both. We're going to just share my screen for a moment. We have a presentation that we want to share with you, give you something visual to look at while we're chatting at you. So we want to share with you about a new program available to really complement and support a lot of the work that's already, amazing work that's already being done in the community. So the program is a collaboration with Jackson County Community Justice and the Pathfinder Network. The program's name is the Resilience and Recovery Project. Just two core fundamental things that we're looking to really build and reinforce, enhance in people's lives and really in the life of the community. So it is a peer support program. We wanted to just briefly talk about our belief or the spirit of how we do peer support work, how we see your peer support work, and really see it as just a range of different activities, interactions, supports that happen between someone with lived experience and someone who is either considering change or trying to make change in their life. Some of the strongest parts about this relationship is that connection and the hope that is shared. We also just see that peer support role as just a unique, really important role that exists outside of some of the other professional relationships that people come into contact with. So just a really unique level of acceptance, understanding, validation, and again, just really leaning into sharing messages and experiences of hope. And by sharing, their own lived experience, they're able to be practical guides, help them develop their own self-directed goals, create strategies for their own empowerment, for self-empowerment, identify concrete steps, take steps, access resources, navigate barriers. Really what we're hoping is that people are able to, begin and continue a journey towards a self-determined life. So what are some of the core things that we see, again, as a spirit and really are infused within our program is inspiring hope that people can and do recover, walking alongside people on their journey, whatever that might mean, depending on that person's recovery journey or that person's needs and strengths, dispelling myths that might be out there, breaking down barriers that exist for people, information, tools, resources, their experience with navigating those themselves, and just being a support in that process of identifying a roadmap, navigating the roadmap, evaluating it, changing it, shifting it, and really collaborating with other partners across the system to support that journey, to mitigate barriers, help people work through challenges they're having. And then sometimes when we're able to do the work in the longer term, looking at fostering longer term goals that really go beyond just reducing symptoms or really, just moving beyond that, but really encompassing things like self-actualization, civic engagement, community engagement, holistic wellness. And so we just wanted to spend a few moments talking about how we see the work and really how it shows up in our program. So our goal ultimately is to walk along justice-involved individuals to build individual, social, and community resources that are going to promote not only long-term resilience, but also recovery, things like successful completion of supervision, which is an important thing for someone to experience success in their goals, and ultimately successful reintegration. And that looks very different for different people. And so being able to navigate, again, walking alongside someone and whatever that looks like for them. We engage folks with professional peer supports who have lived experience, but also coupled with really great training, support, and supervision. And try to work from a place of collaboration where we're able to identify the personalized or individualized support that person needs, whether it's in the moment, whether it's longer term, whether it's for a month, whatever it might be for that person on where they're at. And really try to come from a place of strength, leveraging resilience and strength, progress and goals that have been made. And we try to provide different levels of support, like I said, depending on the person's need, and really do that through both individual supports and group-based supports. And Dustin's going to talk to us a little bit about what some of those group supports look like. So the project itself, when we get down to the details, we provide wraparound peer support and service navigation. So these are folks that are carrying caseloads, and really navigating alongside people to, address supervision goals that they've set, personal goals, recovery goals, whatever it might be for that person, navigating barriers, accessing resources. We also have drop-in support available at Jackson County Community Justice, as well as the Transition Center. So we have part-time and full-time staff that are available at both sites to just really be able to address whatever is coming up when people are popping in and that drop-in capacity. We also try to provide support through things like basic needs assistance that folks are not able to access through other agencies or through the resource center, and then really try to use incentives to support behavioral progress and folks reaching goals that they've set. We also provide a variety of different cognitive behavioral group interventions. We'll talk a little bit about those later. Both kind of general cognitive interventions and then some trauma coping skill interventions. One of the core components of the program is an individual developing a resilience and recovery action plan, which is their goals, right? What they're wanting to accomplish, what they want their experience with supervision to be like or treatment to be like. And then we're also providing support groups, weekly support groups, as well as kind of special topic workshops. There might be information that we want to share with a number of people. So we might host, an information session or a workshop to be able to share that info. And then quarterly peer support events. So we're looking forward to hosting one of our first events here in June, and we're in the planning phases for that. So we'll be able to share that info and invite folks from throughout the community. So that's kind of an overview of what it actually means. What are we doing with folks? How are we engaging? The model that we use along kind of just basic peer support competencies is a model called Creating Regulation and Resilience. And this is something we're really excited about. It's something that we've been wanting to do for a really long time with peers, and Jackson County was the partner who was excited about trying and piloting this too. And we've just seen great results. But really, what is CR2, Creating Regulation and Resilience? It's a trauma-informed, resiliency-informed communication model that really looks to maximize, interactions, in the moment interactions with folks, and to really meet them exactly where they are, not just from a behavioral place, but from a brain place. Where what do they need? How do we engage in a way that really meets them at a place that supports and leverages, things like stability, regulation, and ultimately resilience. So it's about, creating better interactions and relationships, but it's also about creating better programs, more effective programs, and hopefully a safer community, more productive interactions from programs and other resources. It also has a component of self-care. So it talks about this idea that in order to engage with folks that may be dysregulated, we also have to come to a place of regulation, so that we're able not only to model that, but that we're bringing all of our resources to the table, and that we're not kind of in this place of disconnection and dysregulation. And so the communication model basically happens in 2 stages. So phase 1 is really focused on regulation. I think many of you have experienced engaging on, just in the beginning with someone and seeing that they may not be regulated. They may be triggered. They might be experiencing some adversity or challenge or traumatic event. And so the first goal is just to create kind of emotional and physical safety to help them reach calm and balance before we start asking them to do some of those higher order thinking tasks like problem solving, and sometimes even explaining things, explaining to you why they did something or why they didn't do something, or, going into these tasks that just require a bit more energy than people may be able to give based on where they are physically and from emotional and also from a brain place. And then that works us to basically phase 2, which really focuses on resilience. So now that we've been able to engage with folks in a way that promotes regulation, now we can start talking about what are you actually experiencing, and what are some thoughts you have about that. So we can move them out of that kind of reptilian bottom of the brain thinking and responding and acting to a place of regulation where they can actually engage in some effective actions, effective response. And we know that folks, particularly, when we're working with peers, have their own lived experiences that sometimes get pushed up into the experiences of others. So how do we just really, really support regulation across the board and help people build resilience, individually, but also relationally. So it's something we're really excited about. And Tiffany's going to speak a little bit to what that actually means in the context of a peer support interaction or relationship. But it's something we definitely want to share, something that we're excited about piloting and really trying to create some innovation within the peer support relationship that exists. So here's just a visual of CR2. It's sometimes nice to see what exactly we're talking about. So here's the breakdown of the 2 phases and some of the communication skills that many of you have heard of or seen, or maybe you're already using yourself. What CRTO does is it kind of puts them in a container and organizes them in a way that, again, really just maximizes the interaction and our impact. So this is, again, what happens in phase 1, where we're trying to create regulation, and then what takes place in phase 2, when we're really focused on building resilience. Dustin, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk a little bit more about some of the specifics.
Thanks, Leticia. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And this slide here is kind of how, when we get a client, how the process runs. So we meet a client, do an intake. We have some role clarification on, because we're peer supports. We're not counselors and things like that. And we know a lot of the people that come in personally. And so we clarify roles, and we do our R&R capital scale, which I'll get into in the next slide. It's our assessment tool. And then we go into some normative feedback about the capital scale, and just normalize the experience for people of like, this is where the spot that you're at is okay. And then we have our action plan, which is our really service planning tool, and how we make goals and set goals. We do resources and referrals off of that action plan. And then we have cognitive behavioral skills groups, as well as individual stuff that we do with our clients. We use behavioral practices, and incentives is a really big part of the R&R project, is incentivizing positive change in people. And then we collaborate together, and we document all our interactions, so we can continue to track what's going on, track the numbers, and see where we can improve in our program, as well as to track progress as people are moving along. Then we review our progress, which we'll show you our little review sheet that we have as well. We review progress with the clients at certain times in the process. And then we assess the impact and see if people need to stay in the program for a while, or if we can move them along. And it's not a canned thing. R&R project isn't a canned thing where, 90 days, you're out. That's all we have. We give people the time that they need in order to move through the process and put them in a place where they can be successful when they're done with the program. And all throughout this process, we use CR2 communication model in order to accomplish goals and set goals and get to where we need to be. Like Leticia talked about, it's a beautiful model. I've been, Tiffany and I and Leticia have all been trained as trainers in this, and it's something that we really believe in at the Pathfinder Network. It's switching. Okay, so this is our resilience and recovery capital scale, and our action, a little piece of our action plan. But the capital scale, like I said, is really our assessment tool. So we have the clients go rate themselves on some questions on a scale of 0 to 4 to try to find out their resilience. We find that people that are just as involved have a lot of resilience, have built a lot of resilience through their life experiences and things that have happened to them. And so we do that. And then we have a recovery capital scale that we address some specific areas like financial, transportation, environment, housing, support, medical and health, and motivation to change. And everybody rates themselves from a 1 to 5 on that. And then we kind of grade that and have that normative feedback and let people see where people are at and where their strengths are, and how we can work off their strengths to work on things areas that need improvement in the capital scale. So as we move through the capital scale, we move to the action plan with people where we set goals and really target the areas that need improvement and set goals around those. And then that's how we create our referral process, is through the goals we set in the action plan. And it's a paper document for the clients, but it's also a living document within our system that is constantly changing and evolving through the process with them. So we teach cognitive behavioral skills, emotional regulation. We have a lot of breathing stuff within our curriculums, risks and strengths. We set goals with people, and so you can see some of the skills that we teach within the program, not only in the groups but individually as well. We teach a lot of problem solving and social skills, and we really work with people to just build life skills so they can navigate the day-to-day processes. We do a lot of dialectic behavioral therapy, teach a lot of skills in that, and mindfulness skills. We do these things within our team as well, right? On an almost daily basis, because we really have the philosophy here, the team in Jackson County, that we can't ask people to do these people that we're working with to do these things unless we're willing to do them ourselves. So that's really something that we try to build off of and practice ourselves so we can better serve the clients that we have. These are some of the cognitive behavioral interventions and groups that we offer. I've been trained in some curriculums in the past, and we've just hired a few new people, and just really reiterating to them, like, I've been trained in some really dry stuff, right, in the past, and these curriculums that we're in right now are just beautiful. They're super easy to deliver, and they're super easy for a client to take in. Free Your Mind in Transition has 4 components to it for the men, and we also do just the core in Free Your Mind for the women. So this is a curriculum that has been adapted for community programs, because it's used also in our prison programs, in our segregation programs in prison, and it's used in a lot of different ways, but it's been really adapted to fit the community programs. Building Resilience, which is a closed group for men. Healing Trauma, which is a closed group for women that we just started here in Jackson County. I think Monday was our first day in a Healing Trauma group. Really excited about that. We have a Women in Recovery group, which is an open group. Anyone can attend at any time. I feel like we're missing one. No, we're not. Okay, so and we also have an R&R action planning group that people can come to during the week and really just work on their action plan and their goals that they currently have. That's for our wraparound clients, and a support group once a week as well that people can engage in. So this is our part of our amazing team. We have 4 full-time peer support specialists that carry caseloads of 15 each, and that's ever, always moving and changing. And it was crazy here in Jackson County. Within the first 2.5 weeks, I think all the caseloads were full. Really working really great and collaboratively with parole and probation. It's been this really amazing process that's went far beyond anything we ever thought. We also have up to 8. We're not quite at our quota of 8 part-time peers who really facilitate groups and provide drop-in services, hang out in the lobby of parole and probation, and really help people navigate and just have somebody to talk to that's navigated the process of probation and successfully completed it, as well as out at the transition center. We're doing male and female based groups out, gender responsive groups out there right now. And also going into the dorms, like the first 2 weeks that we were at the transition center, we just went into the dorms and just had conversations with people, built relationships with people. And the people out at the transition center are super engaged in these groups right now, and we're super excited about it. So, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany, who's going to talk about some of the like real life application of this stuff that Leticia and I have been talking about.
Thank you, Dustin. So I think, you know, one of the most important things for me to be able to communicate is that we really have this unique opportunity within the Pathfinder Network and in our peer support role. We're a peer-run program, and we really get to meet people where they're at. We have this amazing relationship that we're working on with community justice, and they're just so supportive, and in them being supportive to us, we're enabled to be supportive to our peers. A lot of the times for people getting enrolled in services, they're iffy, you know, they're not sure, they're not trusting, they've had some bad experiences. And so we really get to take the time to develop relationships with them, to build trust, and to help them build the skills that they want to be successful. I think that it's really easy for us to say what we think people need, but in this program we get to support autonomy and really ask them, like, what do you think you need? You know, what do you want to do? What kind of goals do you want to set? And we actually get to meet them where they're at. We get to go out into the community with them. We have a peer who goes and meets somebody on the front porch of their house every week. You know, that's the contact that they have because that's where she's comfortable. I have a peer that I go and meet at a park, you know, and that's like that's our spot. I have some peers who really are scared to come to the office because their status with their probation officer is not so good. And I've had the opportunity to build that relationship to where they're able to contact me and we're able to problem solve and really help support them in breaking that barrier and getting reconnected with their probation officers so that they're able to be successful. I know Dustin and Leticia talked about incentivizing and stuff like that. And we have, you know, quite a few resources in the community that we're able to help our peers get connected to for food, employment, clothes, stuff like that. But sometimes there's barriers to those too, or there's not enough resource. And so one of the really unique things about what we're able to do is incentivize their stuff, right? Like, hey, you say you really want to complete this group. I know it's hard for you to show up. And so what can we do to kind of, you know, make it something fun, another goal for you to work towards? We're able to get them gift cards. Say if they completed one of our groups, we're able to ask them, you know, like, hey, what is your reward per se that you want at the end? And to really help get them motivated into wanting to complete those things and to being able to build that relationship to where they want to show up, they want to communicate with us. I mean, we all are experientially credentialed, and I really like that term. That's such an amazing term, right? Because all of the stigmas that, you know, me, from someone with lived experience in the justice system, as well as recovering from substance use, man, there was some things about me that I had done in my past that I was just like, man, I'm the nevers, right? Like I was talking about with Dustin, but I'll share with you, I'm never going to be able to be a mom. I'm never going to have a good job. I'll never, you know, have a true desire to live. I'll never really be happy. We get to, through lived experience, provide a message to hope for the peers that we work with, and to really just show them and hold their hand along this journey in recovery and show them that it is possible, and to just let them know that they don't have to walk through anything alone. And it's just a really, really great opportunity, and I'm so thankful to be a part of it.
Thank you, Tiffany, for sharing your experience and just, you know, where you see some of the strengths of the program. We also just wanted to open it up. We've been talking for a while at you, and just see if you have any questions or maybe any comments or suggestions or just anything that you might want to share after giving us the opportunity to share.
I just want to say I'm excited about this. This sounds amazing. It sounds like y'all are doing some awesome work, and this is a really needed resource. So I'm really excited to, your presentation was beautiful, a lot of good information in there and just really well put together. So I love what y'all are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you do local peer trainings, or is it more that somebody becomes employed with Pathfinders and then the training happens when you become a staff member?
So right now, that's kind of the track. What we are trying to do, though, and working with some of the partners locally in the community, but also throughout the state, is looking at whether folks are interested in taking what we've built and using it to train other peers. So it's a goal that we have that we're working towards. And I think there's some interest in just providing additional opportunities outside of the ones that already exist in Jackson County to have access to peer support training.
Gotcha.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for being willing to come and present. I'm also extremely excited. I mean, we're a criminal justice agency, and I think within 5 seconds of entering our building, or maybe even earlier, a person is making up their mind of whether or not, you know, does this place get me or is this place out to get me? And I think when we have people with lived experience there to engage them and walk with them and help them through this journey, you know, we definitely are getting closer to being able to understand the needs that people present us with and be able to meet those needs. So it's really exciting to me, and I'm grateful for your guys' work. So thank you very much. All right. So moving through our agenda, I was remiss in my duties earlier. Commissioner Dyer had reached out and said that he had a conflict today. He has been very committed to this group, but he could not make it today. So that is an excused absence, and I wanted to kind of put some context in there as to what that looks like. We said that we were going to have a ballot measure 110 update, and I believe we still are, but I believe those folks are going to present closer to 4, so a little after 4. And we can have them wait a little bit because Jordan and our team from HIV Alliance, I'd like you guys to be able to present your full presentation, and then we will have our partners come in. So, so we have HIV Alliance a little later under the local treatment provider updates, but it's really exciting in the Prime Peer program in terms of what your team is doing. And Jordan, I've had a couple meetings with you already. One of my normal icebreakers I ask people is, do you like pizza or tacos? And you chose pickles, and I will start looking at pickles as a comfort food now. So I appreciate that change in my perspective. But I will turn the floor over to you and your team, and I thank you all for joining us.
Great, thank you. So I wanted to talk about Prime Peer program. It's kind of a tough act to follow. The Pathfinder team really laid out what peer program is about and how it's done. When it's done really well. So I'm very impressed and finding very inspired. I'm like, oh my God, our presentation is so much less detailed. But it is a program that is actually less detailed and also by design. So kind of a different approach, same goal, same theory, same findings. And we'll see. The idea is that all these different peer programs are supposed to catch people at different stages and different stages of readiness and different engagement so that nobody's left out of the whole system of care. Also, how much time do I have actually? Do I need to end by 4 or do you need me sooner?
No, we were going to, I think we're going to try and allot 45 minutes if that's okay. And if that's enough time for you and your team, hopefully today.
45 minutes altogether, or
yeah, for
me to talk. Oh, okay. No,
yeah. So
I was prepared to be much shorter, so I will talk more then. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So just a little bit about HIV Alliance in case you're not familiar with what we do. We formed as a merger of various services that were providing care to people living with HIV and to try to prevent HIV infections, hence the name Alliance. I still haven't gotten an accurate count of the staff numbers. I'm pretty sure it's a lot higher than that, but we do have 6 offices in 6 counties, mostly west of the Cascades, a little bit of a foothold in Deschutes County. And so the 2 things that we do is care services for people living with HIV. That's what we do mostly. I guess about a half of our agency is dedicated to doing that. So things like care coordination, making sure that people are getting their labs done, seeing their doctors, and getting their medications that they need in order to be living with HIV. And the other thing that we do is prevention services, which is to prevent the new infections. So that's the other half of what we do. And we're doing that in various counties. And one of the things that we learned as we were doing the prevention services is that a lot of the people who are coming to prevention services, like the needle exchange and stuff, they need help with referrals to substance use and so forth. And then so we actually became a great venue for making referrals. And then we started doing studies and we started doing services connected to the needle exchange. So the substance use services are actually very much a growing part of what we do. So it might seem like it's a departure from HIV care, but it's very much not, because people who are injecting drugs are one of the highest people who are at the highest risk of HIV transmission. So those are our people that we are trying to meet their needs so that they will not contract HIV. And part of that is that we started providing healthcare services under the name of Alliance for Community Wellness. You'll see that logo there, and you'll see that a lot of our staff are carrying that as our name. And let's see, so the services that we're providing in Jackson County right now, we have an office in Medford, and we're moving. I think we're supposed to move in by the end of the month. So that's like in 2 days. We'll see if that actually happens. We do provide HIV care coordination and PrEP coordination. So PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis for HIV. It's basically HIV medication that you take on a daily basis. So if you're engaged in sexual acts that are at risk, or if your partner is living with HIV, or for various reasons, you want to make sure that you have some protection against HIV. That is a medication that we can either coordinate you getting connected with a provider who can prescribe that, or we actually have a program that we're piloting in Lane County that we're going to expand to all the different counties, where we're providing a PrEP prescription by telehealth. We also distribute naloxone, which is, an opioid overdose preventing medication or treatment medication. And we have the Prime Peer program in Jackson County, which is up and running now. So one of the things that we learned in working with people living with HIV is that we can't just address their HIV and have them take their medications. They have other physical health needs, they have emotional needs, financial needs. People living with HIV are at very high risk of depression, and then that becomes a problem with the other members of the family, and then that becomes an interpersonal issue. And also, because people who are living with HIV are often people who are who are members of a vulnerable or under resourced population, they tend to have more financial stressors, more interpersonal stressors, which then impact their ability to care for their HIV. So we have learned to think about close coordination and consultation with any medical providers that we work with, but not only that, other resources as well. And that's how we got into medical services and the program that I'm running, which is a counseling program and a peer program. So the counseling services started because we kept realizing that our clients needed behavioral health services, and we just could not find people who are competent in working with various populations who are our vulnerable groups, like people living with HIV, people in the LGBTQ plus community, people who are injecting drugs. These are not populations that people are used to working with. If somebody walks in and says, I want to talk about depression, really being able to address all of their socioeconomic stressors as well as their chronic health issues. We've also learned that being completely judgment-free and completely long-term outcome. For instance, in our HIV program, we never fire our clients. Sometimes clients disappear, they come back, and it does not do us any good to be invested in, okay, if only this client would go see the doctor and take this medication, it'll be all okay. Because, those of you who are in the substance use programs know that's not how it works, is that you have to always have a long-term outcome, and that is true of HIV care. So that kind of permeates everything that we do at the agency. Let's see. Another thing that's important is that the care and prevention sides of our agency are really interconnected, because when we care for people living with HIV and make sure that their viral load is controlled, a viral count is low, then they're no longer transmissible. So care is actually prevention. And just like prevention requires care in that in order for people to not engaging in those activities that expose them to the risk of HIV, well, we need to give them counseling, we need to build them up, we need to, build their self-esteem or whatever, and give them more tools and coping strategies. So prevention is care and care is prevention. They're interlinked in our minds, although they're two different departments. Like my department is kind of neither, and they're really, but we're really not thinking about these programs as having different goals. We're all working together with the statewide goal of basically having zero HIV transmission, and all of us are working towards that. So the Prime Peer program was funded by the state of Oregon and is funded in response to the continuing opioid use challenges in Oregon, but recognizing that, opioid use, again, cannot be separated out from other substance use. So it's much more flexible and open than just thinking about opioids. For some reason, opioids was the thing that everybody was all worried about, I guess for understandable reasons. That's where the fundings came from. But we're recognizing that we can't just do an opioid program. We need to do a, broadly speaking, substance program. So we have 2 peer support specialists in Jackson County. Sarah, I saw you earlier. I don't know if Jade is able to join yet. They're actually at the syringe exchange right now working. So Sarah, if you want to briefly introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a Prime PA here in Jackson County. We are at the exchange right now, so I'm sorry I'm not able to talk more.
Yep, just wanted you to be able to, people to be able to see you. We are planning to hire a lead peer support specialist who will have experience as a peer and can supervise. And also the hope is that there will be more coordination with other agencies in terms of training and care coordination and collaboration. So that's the role that the lead will take on. We did offer the position to someone, and then they took a different position. So it's still open. If you know somebody who is an experienced peer looking for a position, please have them take a look at us. So the goal, let me see, I'm just going to look ahead a bit because I think there is something that I skipped out on. So Prime Peer program is actually targeted at people who are not interested in engagement, not interested in a program, not interested in treatment. So this is an approach that we actually piloted in Douglas County, where we were doing a survey of people about their opioid use and their injected substance use and how that connects to their transmission of HIV and Hep C and their social network, and a very elaborate national study. And in our implementation of the study, we decided to hire peers to do the studies, to recruit the clients and do the survey and whatnot, and also actually provide peer services that would normally be offered in a treatment program unconditionally. So we've been calling it kind of a pre-treatment peer program or between treatment peer program. So what if we just we know that peer services are very effective in consolidating gains and maintaining the treatment gains. But what about people who are not interested in engagement? Well, what we found is that, pretty amazingly, even to us, that half of the people who were engaged with the peers actually sought one form of treatment or another in the year or two that we were engaged with them. And these are people who are using, like 90% of them were using opioids and meth daily or more, about 45% daily, 45% more than daily. And they were totally not interested in treatment. And so this is the population where we would normally be thinking that they would be resistant to change or resistant to treatment. And what it turned out to be is that a lot of them had a treatment in mind. It's just that they had a variety of barriers, such as a perception of a stigma or just practical stuff, daily stuff happening, and perceptions about themselves and so forth. And just providing peer services to them actually increased their willingness and readiness to get engaged in treatment. And it was pretty quick and pretty seamless. Even some of the clients who were just like, don't ever even talk to me about treatment or anything resembling treatment. I will not talk to you again. We were like, fine. And within months, they were enrolled in a program. And what we were able to do is, as they are, in and out of treatments, continue to hold them and support them so that eventually they can actually find a program that works for them. Also, problem solving, the kind of the things about that Leticia mentioned earlier about fears of what the parole officer would do and under these circumstances. We were able to work with them and so forth. A very common and repeating story in our program. So the Prime Peer program is building on the findings that we and the successes that we had in Douglas County, and it is a statewide program that has been being piloted in various counties since last year, and we're just bringing it to Jackson County now. So we will take referrals from anybody. Technically, on paper, we are looking for people who are at risk of overdose or at risk of some kind of a health problems because of their substance use. But we're not being picky at all. Anybody who is engaged in some kind of a substance use and you are concerned about them, they can be referred to us. And anybody can self-refer at this point as well. We're not, we don't have any screening criteria. We do ask them, so are you actually using substance, any substance that is, I can't remember the phrase that we use. Basically, should we be concerned about your substance use? Kind of a question. And we have a questionnaire. So, sometimes people are like, oh, this is not a program for me. I think that's happened like once so far. But generally, people are like coming to us because they want support. And in the back of their mind, they want to do something about their substance use. But now is not the time. And they can get the services. We do also do a lot of outreach. We've been talking to various agencies, so familiar faces here, about how to do outreach together, so that if you reach somebody out there and they're like, hey, I'm interested in treatment, then great, you get referred to the treatment program. If they're like, no, go away, then like, well, actually we can still help you. So that's what we are interested in doing. So please connect with us if you're doing outreach in the community and you occasionally run into people who might use some services. So we do everything that the peer support programs do, just like the Pathfinder folks had described. Peer support specialists share some aspect of the life experiences of our clients. So there's this instant rapport that gets built. And it can range everything from practical help. Apparently, giving rides to people is like the thing that we do. Sometimes even grocery shopping if we have time. So anything that they need from a practical point of view. We do role modeling, obviously, just by being there, moral support. And if they're interested in service, then referrals and linkage. And this could be, not just substance programs, but it could be Hep C treatment. It could be a primary care provider, being afraid to go and see a primary care provider because of, fear of what they'll think. And sometimes they would want to go back to a treatment program, but be afraid like, oh, I graduated from this program. I don't know what they're going to think that I'm using again. Well, no, actually, it'll be fine. I'll just go with you and you'll know that it'll be fine. And so, having that support with them helps them kind of go over that barrier. And since I have lots of time, I'm going to tell you my little analogy, which is kind of awful, but so it is about glaciers. I don't know how many of you actually heard this story. So let me know if I'm like saying this and you're like, oh, I've heard this story from Jordan before. So I do have my chat up that I can see. Okay. So if you look at glaciers, so glaciers look like, I don't know if you ever touched or hit a glacier. Those things are hard. It's a solid block of ice, right? And they look at that like they're permanent, that they're impervious to anything. And they're, you bash your head against it and it'll hurt a lot. Pretty scary things. Formidable, I think is the word that applies. But it turns out that if we raise the temperature by 1 or 2 degrees, it just melts away. Just poof, gone. Glaciers everywhere, gone. So tragic for the globe and glaciers and all that. but that is an analogy that I like to think about in terms of providing support to people who are using substances. That the resistant to treatment that we think of as formidable and impermeable, is that the right word? Impermeable, impregnable, whatever, is actually very susceptible to just disappearing very quickly with just a little bit of a nudge, 1 or 2 degrees, just making it just a little bit easier. And just a little bit easier could be complicated, like finding housing and, taking care of something or other having to do with their children or school or whatever. Or it could be something simple, just somebody being there and actually caring about them and having them feel that they're valued as an individual. So
Jordan, real quick, I just really
Sure.
like that analogy for a number of reasons, but I really like the way you said afterwards, making it easier, because historically we'd say making it more difficult until the dissonance is there and the impetus is there that they'll finally engage in some sort of life change. And no, I think the way you're phrasing it is much more apt to how we all change, right? So
Well, that's the kind of the converse of the hitting the bottom story, right? When people are really, really difficult, they finally go, okay, I got to finally do something like that. And that has to do with the difference between risk and benefit. So when their life is so horrible that the risk seems not that big a deal compared to the benefit, that is when people change. And what the peer programs do is I'm sorry, I kind of lost track of which is high and which is low. I think high is bad. Anyway, what peer programs does is it makes the risk a little bit lower, the cost of change just a little bit lower, so that they can really pursue the benefit that they can see. So people who are, in that risk benefit is pretty similar. I mean, really, the benefit has to completely outweigh the cost before people will actually make change. So people who are vacillating, sometimes it doesn't seem that way. But when we kind of lower the cost just a little bit, then the benefit always outweighs the cost. So that's how I kind of think about it. So thank you for bringing that up too. Yeah. All right. So if you know anybody, could be a client, could be a friend, who is at risk of overdose or other health problems because of their substance use, anybody you reached during outreach, anybody who comes to you or anybody who declines your service, anybody who is prematurely departing your program, is fairly common for people to come in for their intake and never come back again. Or they might be graduating from one program and waiting to get into another program, and then there's a gap. Or it could be that, they're just going back and forth between different treatments. None of them are working, but they're trying. Anyone, or just somebody who's kind of like, no, I'm just not interested. Any one of those people, please refer them to us. So somebody who is not getting a peer service from another program would be eligible for our services. Basically, if they're already enrolled in a program that provides peer services, then we defer to them. We are a grant-funded program, so we don't have to worry about billability. So if there's a program that is actually billing for the services, we would defer to them, or any program that has a kind of a wraparound service and the peer service is part of that, you would defer to them. But we can also step in if your staff are too busy, or if you have somebody who is has a especially complex need, or have a lot of needs that but they don't really want to engage with the other programs. Refer them to us, and we will fill in the gap. That's what we're supposed to do. And pretty much we just need the name and how we can get in touch with them. You can even tell us which bridge they live under, and we'll go and find them. Peers are actually universally very good at finding people who have been long lost. Anybody that you're concerned because you haven't heard from for a long time, refer them to us, and we will try to find them, and we will get them re-engaged with your programs. Or if they're not interested in re-engaging, then we'll support them until they are. So these are the phone numbers. Should I post them in the chat or something so that it's...
Yes, but
the chat is actually disabled.
The chat's disabled. So I think
okay.
If you want to email them to me, Jordan, I might be able to get them out to the group through Jennifer.
Well, I did email you the brochure, so you can go ahead and email that to everybody. We did get a request to make a referral form so that there's some ease of documentation at the referring site. So we just put it together, reviewing it, and I'll send that out too. So if you want to send that to us, that would work as well. But we're trying to make it as easy and simple and non-barrier-y as possible for you as well. So whatever makes it easier for you, more forms, less forms, we'll do it. That's kind of our attitude about the whole thing. We do need to organize a local coordinating committee, so like an advisory committee of local stakeholders. I think we have a list of names that we're collecting already that we're like, yes, you are interested. And so the idea is that you will be able to give us guidance and support and, also accountability of what we're doing and what we're not doing and so forth. And so we can also help coordinate the outreach and all the other processes that we're not doing this alone. This really needs to be a collaborative thing. And the idea is for the clients to be passed on back and forth between different programs rather than be in one program, be left out in the lurch, and then go to another program. That we really like the processes to be seamless. So whatever is going to work to make sure that there's no gap in the service. So that's actually all I had. Any questions or comments?
Well, Jordan, I've really enjoyed getting to meet you and your team, and I'm really optimistic about the work you're going to be able to do here in Jackson County. One of the big concerns with 110 is that Measure 110 is that there's a void within our community about how people are being contacted or engaged. And I'm hoping you can really help to make sure people stay connected throughout this as we look at a different approach in our state. So. Yeah. All right. Great.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Also, I believe Amanda Eisenhower is here. So Amanda, if you just want to say hi for the record, so we get you on as somebody in attendance, as a member in attendance.
Hi, Eric. Thank you. I was going to interject right there too. And I was just wondering, sorry, I was late. My other meeting ran over. So is there anything that we couldn't meet quorum for?
I don't believe it this time. So we will have minutes next month. I appreciate the extension of that offer though, but I think we're good for today. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still waiting on a couple of our partners from the state to join us. And I'm wondering that if in the interim, we can reach out and see if our CCOs would like to give us updates as we start to move through our update list. I know Jeffrey Piacitelli is here as well as Darren Dale. So Jeffrey, you are listed first on the agenda, and I will see if you've got any updates for us.
Hey, Eric, thanks so much. Hi, everybody. I really don't have a whole lot of updates this month. Things at the care coordination level continue pretty steadily at the hospitals, and anecdotally, we've noticed quite a few heroin overdoses in the past 10 days. Didn't know if that was something that others were seeing, but across both counties, Josephine and Jackson, we've seen about 10 in the last 10 days, which is extraordinarily high. So just wanted to mention that. But otherwise, no updates on my end.
No, I appreciate that, and that is sobering. So if other folks have updates as to what we're seeing, that might be helpful in this setting. And Darren,
I'm gonna have a
Eric, I'm gonna help for Darren.
Julia, great.
I have some background noise here at my house that would probably be better if I put myself muted.
Okay.
Yeah, Darren's getting a head start on summer construction projects, so good for him, because we're really looking forward to getting together as a team in his backyard. So we're all supportive of Darren's construction projects. Thanks for having us. I was able to touch base with Stacy today also about how we felt that like more of a quarterly sharing of data would be a good direction, just so that we would have more meaningful either changes or additions to share. So I'm looking forward to doing that again in another couple of months. And this time we'll have graphs and pie charts, and it'll be really pretty to look at. So
that's all it takes for me. I'm usually like, there it is. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. But in terms of other just general updates and whatnot, I would say, first off, we're really excited about our partnership with JCMH and other really critical stakeholders in the crisis response project work that's happening, that really goes across the lines of membership. It's a great collaboration with All Care as well. to just see how we can all contribute to a meaningful and really intentional, effective enhancement and expanding of our mobile crisis services, and then other layers of the continuum of crisis response. So we're excited about that. And I would also say that, you know, we're really hearing the workforce shortage crisis that is a major topic. And we all know this is not necessarily new, but like all things, it's definitely pandemic. You know, it's been exacerbated by the pandemic, and it hasn't helped, that's for sure. And it's actually made things worse. So Care Oregon is pulling together a large sum of funding to help us create personalized plans with each of the providers around what their unique needs are, what would be most helpful for them to address the workforce crisis as they've been experiencing it. And that could range from support with the additional costs of having licensed providers, the supervision fees. It could relate to bonuses that would help even the playing field in terms of salaries, and how salaries, unfortunately, are different across different sectors. And it could also come in the form of training, upskilling, and retaining staff who work with more vulnerable populations, training for CADC tracks and efforts that way. But we're open to other ideas, and we're having those conversations, and definitely making it a priority to support providers in that way. This all relates to access. Really, access is a huge topic of conversation in almost everything that we do. Because if you don't have the staff, then your hands are kind of tied as a provider to be able to remove those barriers of access, limit wait times, and you know, push things through that way. So access is something that we're working with through that strategy. We're also doing a really deep dive into technical assistance with providers on understanding initiation and engagement in the substance use work that they do. And so being able to, again, just to strengthen the system that we have in place for making sure that folks don't fall through the cracks, and that there is follow-up and engagement, because oftentimes folks are they're bouncing from the physical health setting of receiving a diagnosis to treatment, and then there can be cracks in that. I also met up today with Doyle Smith, who's the executive director for Dual Diagnosis Anonymous. And I know providers have probably seen me emailing out warm introductions, because we're really excited about the work that DDA does. We really feel, I know we've all talked about mental health acuity that we're seeing, and it's on the rise for sure. But I think we can all also you know, agree that mental health co-occurring diagnoses have long been an issue, and that the more effort that we can make towards providing services that are integrated and that address the underlying mental health or trauma, you know, that has happened that causes self-medicating, the better. And so I'll continue to do warm introductions. I know, Eric, that he's reached out to you. Thank you so much for talking to him about maybe being able to come to this meeting to present on DDA. This is something we're excited to fund here in the county. It was dropped for a while, but we brought it back, and I plan to continue to advocate for that service, and to find ways that we can advocate these non-clinical, kind of non-traditional behavioral health treatment that really does provide a return on investment, even though it might be less concrete to see. That's always the challenge of behavioral health, because the problem could arise in behavioral health, and then the solution is found in, you know, in another sector, another part of that person's comprehensive, you know, system of recovery. So I think those are the main overarching updates I have. Thanks for letting me take the time. And if anyone has any questions, also feel free to ask those.
Questions for Julia? That was a great update. And we Doyle really wants to come and present, and I know everybody in this meeting right now is like, well, get him here now, because everybody's really eager to hear about and engage with this program. So thank you, Julia. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Well, we are joined now by our guest out of, I'm going to say the Salem area, Wes. I hope that's okay. But Wes Rivers was nice enough to come and join us to talk about Measure 110, some of the grants, some of the implementation process around it. I know there's a lot of concern and maybe a little fear out of our community down here about what the response is going to be. And the state's really had a tall order once that legislation passed, or excuse me, that voter initiative passed, in terms of what's being asked of them in this response. So Wes, you don't have to respond to all of it, but the parts you're willing to speak to would be really well received here. So thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, you're up.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Wes Rivers. I'm the interim project lead for Measure 110 implementation in the state. I'm happy to talk through a couple of things with you. Maybe I'll first give you a little bit of an implementation update, and then we can talk a little bit about the RFGP that's out currently, and what kind of funding is getting out to the communities to kind of get this work started off. So what Measure 110 does, there are 5 major actions that Measure 110 does. So establishes the Oversight and Accountability Council, which is a 22-member body who is responsible for the distribution of funding from the marijuana dollar account, known as the Drug Treatment and Recovery Account, to communities to support treatment and recovery services. It establishes a telephone ARC, Addiction Recovery Center, as named in the law. It's a telephone line that provides 24/7 triage and intake for folks looking for services. It also acts as a way in which folks can get a citation dismissed for possession of small amounts of controlled substances. Secondly, it establishes the services, right, by which the OAC is funding. So the Addiction Recovery Center, which is supposed to be one in every CCO region. It's just one in every geographic CCO region, not necessarily tied to the CCO. And then that's, again, the same concept as the statewide telephone line, but regional, having a regional entry point for folks to call, get intensive, health screening and comprehensive behavioral health assessment, as well as getting linked to case management and an intensive intervention plan. So those are kind of the service elements. For drug penalties, it creates the Class E violation, this is what most people hear about, is the decriminalization of small amounts of controlled substances. So in the criminal code, it creates this Class E designation for those small amounts and equates it to a fine. And then allows for a person who is in need of services to go out and reach out to one of these ARCs, either the statewide telephone line or the regional ARC, and get that fine deferred if they get the screening that is required. Finally, like I said earlier, the marijuana dollars is the main source of funding for this approach. So it shifts money from the existing marijuana expenses and moves that over to the drug treatment recovery account to help pay for these services. So I'm just, that's the big overview. I've done kind of specifics on these, but this is changing all the time. So I'm going to skip through some of this to make sure that we have time to kind of make sure you know where we are as a state. Really quickly, I do want to say that we have had quite a bit of legislation shift as to when the deliverables for this act are. So I'm going to just show you on a timeline. So February 1st, we established the OAC, the Oversight and Accountability Council, as well as the statewide telephone line. The new legislation had pushed us back to September 1st. It was originally July 1st, but September 1st, the council will have to have adopted rules for these addiction recovery centers and the grants. And then by January 1st, they have to be up and running. So we will have the addiction recovery centers, which you will hear they're now called behavioral health resource networks, or BURNs. A lot of acronyms here. So if
that helps though, because we have an ARC here, we have an addictions recovery center
yes,
here. So
yes,
right.
it is extremely confusing. So
Thank
that was
you.
that was like one of the very first points that was brought up in the Senate. There's already an ERC. But that will help distinguish that. I can't even imagine how many calls they probably get about this. It's like Twitter, right? When you have the wrong handle. So we will have to have the BURNs established by January 1st, 2022. Then they'll be fully operational, and we will move to a place where we are collecting information that we can submit to the Secretary of State for an audit. I'm going to stop right there for just a question about the timeline, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about the policy changes that have been happening, and then I'll just talk about implementation. And I can't see if there's anything in the chat. If you don't mind, Eric, if you could let me know.
Yeah, I don't think chat's enabled, but if anybody has a question, please feel free. All right.
Great. So 755, the Senate bill that is changing Measure 110 has done a lot. And so I just want to highlight a couple of things here. So like I said, the resource networks, the ARCs are now called Behavioral Health Resource Networks. And instead of every CCO area, the Senate really wanted to make sure that we're tying it to a geographic area and not necessarily a concept or a healthcare concept. So, the regions shift. So for CCOs potentially. So it's really, they designated a county as a nice kind of locality by which to have, each county will have to have a behavioral health resource network. They made the telephone line permanent. So originally it was just temporary lines until the regional networks could be set up. Now they're saying, let's have a statewide resource forever, just to make sure if anybody has any trouble connecting to their regional resource, they can always rely on the state line to get that immediate access and screening. Another big thing is that it provides that the resource networks, now that they're networks, provide a lot more services. So not only are they responsible for connecting folks with doing the intake and connecting folks with those services, but within their networks, they need to have the providers of things such as low barrier treatment, housing, and harm reduction. So that's really kind of been swept up underneath the Behavioral Health Resource Network. It requires that these networks provide culturally and linguistically responsive services. And then finally, it takes OHA and puts OHA in the business of making sure that verifications for the screening. So if an individual goes in to get a screening to waive their citation, that the OHA then transmits that information to the courts for purposes of citation dismissal.
Wes, quick question on this list. It says it requires the BURNs to assess need for and provide harm reduction, low barrier treatment, and housing. Are they going to have funding then to build those infrastructure items within communities?
Yes. So, so the funding for the BURNs will be capacity building as well as network establishment. So we're still looking at what that looks like. The council, I just came from the council meeting. They're in full policy discussion about what this actually looks like in practice, what the organizational structures that they might fund would look like. So absolutely. So they would, one of the things the council was talking about today is really looking at the full scale of services that a community might have already, and then filling the gaps, like paying for the services that they're really missing to build that network up. That's one potential. But really, we're looking at using this funding to really when we say establish the BURN, it's fund the BURN with the marijuana dollars to make it fully established. All right. So
may I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Who runs the BURNs?
Who runs the BURNs? Yeah, so that's a great question. It'll look different for every community probably. So the ultimate overseer of the BURNs is the Oversight and Accountability Council. So they have the full oversight and responsibility over the burns and through their funding mechanism. Now, who runs a single burn will depend on the community. We went through several applicant proposals today, not applicant proposals, but applicant models today. So it could be a community gets together and they have one big health system that decides I can cover most of these services with the help of other providers. I'm going to bring those providers in. We're going to all apply together. I'll be the fiscal sponsor. They might be the head of the burn. We might also have the OAC establish a leadership structure where you have to have some sort of governance body to be established as a burn. We're just not that far down the road. We will also probably provide community a bit of flexibility in each county, what that leadership structure might look like. Okay. So for the grants, the tribes are now explicitly eligible to apply for funding to pay for services. Before it was implied, now they are explicitly named partners, governmental partners to apply for these funds. Council will be awarding based on prioritized CBOs serving communities impacted most by the war on drugs. So that would be looking at a mix between kind of geographic and demographic rates of incarceration and arrest of drug arrests. So the council would look at the data and then be prioritizing distribution of funding based on that. Counties must specify subgrantees and how they will fund culturally specific programs. So if a county applies, which they are allowed to under the law, they do need to show how they are making sure that their programming is culturally specific to the area that they serve. And then there's a couple of other things here that I just want to make sure that we go over, is that treatment providers have to be licensed and certified or credentialed by the state. So if you are providing a service that requires a credentialing or a treatment, a credentialing or a licensure, you have to have those to be able to apply and be funded. And then Medicaid. So there was a little bit of unclarity about what the role of Medicaid was in the law. So this tried to clarify that a bit. And I think there's still some kind of wordsmithing that's happening in the background. But Medicaid is the payer of last resort in federal law. So whatever the grants pay for, it will not be Medicaid eligible services most likely. So it'll be separate and apart from Medicaid. But that being said, we would encourage those who are grantees to be billing Medicaid for the services that are eligible. The last things I want to say really quickly around the criminal justice aspect of this. So so we created this new Class E designation that comes with a fine. That money will then be pumped back into the services, the substance use services part of this. So it'll move into the account with the marijuana dollars and help to fund the services. There is a big time audit for us and our criminal justice partners that will be done by the Secretary of State. So this just added a lot more teeth to that, so in which we will have to require getting criminal justice data, tying it to outcomes, showing that this is having an impact not only on treatment and recovery outcomes, but on things like housing and in criminal justice involvement, that you're making positive strides throughout the community. It changes the Class E designation so that you would not be arrested for failing to appear in front of a judge. Then requires law enforcement to provide info to a cited person after they have received a screening. Or how to receive a screening, excuse me. There's a couple other things there. The only other big important thing is it brings youth into the law. So there was a lot of concern about youth being left out or the parity between juvenile justice and adult justice. So youth are able to participate in the program for any reason, they would be able to call the line just like anyone else and get a screening and assessment.
Wes, has there been conversation within these meetings about whether or not citations are going to be an actual, whether there's going to be any of, whether they're going to be done? Because there's a concern that there haven't been a lot done yet since the law went into effect. Rather, I think officers are making direct referrals to a prime peer program or something like that. But if this isn't the primary vehicle by which frontline officers are connecting people to resources, does that impact this program at all?
It does. So I think that's, there's a lot of training going on with our criminal justice partners to make sure that officers are making the citations, and not only that are making the citations, but are also fulfilling the element of having that discussion and referral to the line. So Lines for Life is who is now our contractor with respect to the statewide telephone line, has done a lot of publicity, palm cards to give to officers. I think the law adds a little bit more teeth to try to make sure that officers are helping folks get connected. The citation numbers, we still get about 45 citations a week is what, if I recall, was the latest kind of running average. So it's still robust. That kind of mirrors with about 10 calls to the call center. Not all of them are specific related to a citation, but we're still, I mean, we're slowly building both on the citation and on the referral side. So it'll be interesting to, all of these things kind of start slow, and we'll be seeing as it gets more and more common practice, what happens. And like I said, I mean, you're right. If officers are just not writing the citations at all, hopefully they're still handing out the palm card and saying, hey, you should use this as a resource. So we're trying to work with our criminal justice partners to make sure that that training is making sure that people are getting to the place they need to be. All right. I'll give you a couple agency updates. So we are building up slowly on call volume. So as I mentioned, we've had this up since February. So as of, we've had 62 unique calls, 17 participants in services, with others calling for services who are not cited yet. So it's about a third of folks are calling for actual services. Last week was our biggest week, where we had 5 people participate out of the calls that came in, which is great. I can give you a quick rundown of that, actually. Make sure I have, let's see. All right, so participants who received the screening. So we've had 2 in Multnomah, 1 in Josephine, 2 in Coos, 1 in Lane, 3 in Umatilla, 1 in Clatsop, 2 in Lynn, 2 in Douglas, 1 in Yamhill, 1 in Wasco, 1 in Polk. Not 1 in Jackson yet, but you know, we get data actually tomorrow, and it's new counties every week. So that's not to say it won't be added. As for folks calling in with respect to other services, that's been mixed, and some have come actually from folks living from a bordering state, so it might not be as big, but we've gotten also a lot of folks calling in, law enforcement officers calling in, just asking for resources. So to your point, Eric, I think folks are looking for the resource and figuring out what they can do to support people that they encounter. I talked already about the OAC, but just to give you a sense of what they're doing, they weighed in a lot on the Senate bill and helping them kind of map out the work that they're doing moving forward. They talked a lot about the implementation deadlines and thinking about what they could do very fast. Then one thing that happened just recently, we were given, and this leads into the RFGP conversation, we were authorized to spend about $20.2 million before June 30th to kind of kickstart the law, right? And so the House of Representatives introduced a bill that really authorized us to get the funding out the door because people need help now. And so to do that, we did that in a couple of different ways. One was to set a tribal set aside to make sure that we were honoring our government to government agreement with the tribes. So we're still talking with the tribes about how to spend that money and how they would like to spend that money. The second is through direct contract amendments. So we have direct contracts with counties and providers, especially around housing and harm reduction, that we can start to get that money out the door quickly. And then the last way was to put out the RFGP and to really blanket the system, make sure that we are getting proposals from folks from all over the state who might need more capacity in delivering services to the people that they serve. So that RFGP is what the council really helped to create. The parameters of that RFGP, the questions, as well as kind of their vision of what they wanted to fund now versus this is just the first round of money. It's the stuff that has to be spent by June 30th. They are going through a much more deliberative process, and by the end of the calendar year are going to have a much more robust grant program. So the ideas that are coming in from people writing proposals can also help inform the more long-lasting, forward-looking program. So it's really interesting and also been really great to work with the council to get this RFGP out like in a month. It was like, I think we got authorized in towards the middle of April, and we have the RFGP out currently. So quite a rapid process, and then that money has to be out the door at the 1st of June. I'm going to skip this, but this game gives you a kind of a graphical representation of what I'm talking about, what we're doing right now. So we're in the solicit mode for this 1921 biennium money that's out right now. And then services will kick off July 1st. And hopefully we will have folks spending that money through the end of the year. And then we will have we are in the process of developing the burns, the networks, as I was calling them earlier, and then the bigger community service grants. They're in the process of developing the rules for those as we speak. So had a policy discussion today. They're meeting weekly to put kind of what the parameters of those will be. So I did want to give information about the RFGP, make sure I could answer any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I can send you, Eric, the slides so folks have all this information. We have a lot of information. We had a great Q&A a week ago, and we had it recorded, as well as took all the questions that came in from the Q&A, and afterwards a lot of people had follow-up questions, and it just been streaming in. But 250 people attended that Q&A, so we're getting a lot of robust input and questions. We put a Q&A document together about the main questions, the 75 most frequently asked questions, I guess, and we can share those with you so that you have a full compendium of answers to your questions, that if you are planning to apply or of a group in your community that's planning to apply but has questions. And then Coral and I are always able to answer questions. But the real part of it is that we are funding the part of the law that's trying to get access to services more robust. So that's in terms of low barrier treatment services, housing, harm reduction services, and peer support and recovery services. So there's also supported employment and provider technical assistance. So you could apply to go out and hire some technical assistance in the areas of substance use disorder treatment or peer delivered services, or housing for that matter. But the main crux of it are those like 4 big buckets of harm reduction, low barrier treatment, housing, and peer delivered services. and trying to make sure that we are getting that money into organizations who can build capacity with it. So that includes things like hiring for housing, using some of that money for capital infrastructure, building units, or providing some of the operational expenses that you need to run a facility that's helping people in recovery. So really being extremely flexible with this amount of money to help build capacity in the short term while this new money is about to be put out there, and folks can do some really innovative things with it. I'll stop there because I think I said a lot and I might be reaching my time.
Wes, I want to just express my gratitude. I think in the era of Zoom, it's too convenient to say, oh, well, you can just pop on Zoom. I know how much is on your plate right now. And the fact that you're willing to come down and talk to Jackson County means a lot. So thank you for your time. But if anybody has any questions or comments in the meantime for Wes and his work. Okay, I will look, if you wouldn't mind sending me the slideshow or the information.
Absolutely.
We'll get it out, and Jennifer's usually the one who makes sure everybody gets that. Again, really helpful. It also helps create a little sense of surety in terms of this bold new direction that our state's going, that there are services being applied to it. There is a lot of energy around it, and because now the real work starts, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, just last thing, RFGPs due May 3rd. So if you want to apply by May 3rd. I just want to make sure I highlighted that. I don't know if I said it. May 3rd, it's Monday, COB.
All right.
Okay.
May 3rd, that's next month. That's Monday. Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay, well, thanks again for your time, Wes. Really appreciate it. And we have been moving, we've had a robust agenda today, but I do want to give the Oregon Health Authority a chance. I know John McElveen's here for any other updates. We're going to be doing abbreviated updates today. Next month, we'll try and spend some more time with it. But John, if you're still here, if you'd like to talk at all about any updates.
Sure. Hey, Eric, and hey, everyone. Good to see all of you. And yeah, Sam and Greg weren't able to make it today, so we're coming off the bench to help out. And but again, good to see all of you. I don't have a ton. I'm just glad that Wes was able to give you those 110 updates. There's been a lot of work around that, but not a ton of new updates. I did, and I'm as I've been listening into the conversation, I did hear about the prevalence, and I did see the alerts put out by Jackson County Public Health around the overdose issue. So, which is obviously tremendously concerning. I can tell you on that myself and my role as SOTA, working with some of my other colleagues at HSD and with public health to continue to develop a better internal system where we can exchange information about these things when they happen. I'm not necessarily saying in real time that's ideal right down the road, but we are still working on developing some of those systems at the state level. I guess just being honest, I would just encourage folks. A lot of you know me, and you have my contact info. And if there's any way that I can help, I did reach out to some folks down there and mention that I had heard about it. So, it's just a tremendous challenge, and I think everybody knows this by now. It's really unfortunate. It's happening all over Oregon. It's happening all over the West as we get sort of inundated with these counterfeit fentanyl pills, and it's just it's disconcerting, I'll say the least. But I do think that continuing to stress what we know that works, at least on the treatment end and on the harm reduction end. Safe usage, and I know you guys are leaders in that in Southern Oregon in terms of Jackson County public health's efforts. But I would just say, I'm here. Reach out to me if there's anything that you want to let me know about, or any trends, or if there's anything in particular you want to bounce off of me. I can do my best to bring it to whomever or address it myself if I have the resources to do that. So that's on the overdose issue, which again is very pressing, unfortunately. But no, other than that, I don't have a ton of stuff, and free to answer any questions if anybody has anything that kind of hot topics or anything. Again, I think Wes did a great job at explaining 110. It's a lot of moving parts. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, I appreciate you joining us, John. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm all over the board when it comes to this agenda, so I want to apologize for that. But as we look for community updates from Oregon Pain Guidance Naloxone Work Group, we're doing our abbreviated speed round. But Sarah, anything there?
I'm going to keep it speedy. I'll just throw out there that Oregon did have a 60% increase in opioid overdose deaths between 2019 and 2020, just to kind of, add to what people have already said. And I think I'll just leave it at that. Thank you, Eric.
No, and that's one of the things that I think drives this group and drives this work is that sense of urgency. So thank you. And Southern Oregon MAT community, I don't know if Dr. Trotta was able to join us, but I did see Suzanne was with us. So does anybody want to give an update on some of the work that's going around that? Or Susan Sanchez was here, I'm sorry.
Hi, Eric. Yes,
Hey.
Dr. Trotta wasn't able to make it, but he sent me a quick update that the Southern Oregon MAT community meeting is being held monthly. They're alternating between noon and 6 p.m. Hoping to open up in-person meetings soon. The Southern Oregon MAT curbside call service is functioning at the Asante hospitals, and there are 4 physicians participating, and they're getting about 4 to 10 calls a week, and they're hoping to hire a part-time community MAT coordinator who would function to coordinate MAT services across the outpatient clinics and local hospitals.
That would be huge.
That's about it.
All right. I appreciate it, Susan. Thank you for that update. So again, I apologize if this feels like speed round. Again, next month, hopefully we'll get back to it and spend a little bit of time. But going through our local treatment provider updates from the ARC, we have Ben Spence. Ben.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Ben Spence. I'm the CRM supervisor, community response supervisor for the ARC. Kim couldn't make it today, but I'll go through real quick. Our residential census, both male and female, are still running at a reduced rate, as is detox. We have 2 peers starting at Birch Grove, La Clinica, hopefully by the 13th, May 13th. We'll have a full-time CRM there on Thursdays and a full-time mental health peer support worker on Fridays. Also, we've been kind of expanding our outreach. We're been on the Greenway a lot, and we're working our way out towards Ashland, and in Ashland, actually working with the Ashland PD. And then also we're working on getting an engagement area opened up to start bringing clients back on campus. That's kind of our phase 1 of reopening. Hopefully it happens with everything changing with the new guidelines. We'll see how that goes. But what we have in the works right now is we have 2 client workstations here where clients will be able, or not even just clients, but people who may be interested in treatment can come down here. They can access telehealth services from our computers here. We have Wi-Fi that they'll be able to access, and maybe serve them a hot cup of coffee or a cold drink, depending on the day, and maybe talk to them about treatment. So that's exciting.
That is really exciting, Ben, and thanks for joining us and being willing to update. Jody with Allied.
Hello. I really don't have any new updates. We're just staying busy. That's all I got.
No worries. It's always just good to hear from folks, so I appreciate it. Justin and Boulder Care.
Thank you.
Yeah, no major updates for us. Hopefully we'll have something bigger next month, but right now we'll keep it calm and just stay the line.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Good to see you. Dane, HIV Alliance.
I'll be really quick. We did about 49 clients with naloxone, had 11 reversals, and down in Jackson County, 9 reversals in Josephine County. We do know there's a lot of fentanyl. I don't have the data on the fentanyl test strips, but we're still distributing them, getting reactives. We did it even in CJ when they were doing exchange. There was an overdose in the park yesterday. So it's happening everywhere. And so they gave them test strips. They tested the drugs, and fentanyl was present. So it's just in everything. And that's what we're just telling our clients.
Okay.
Just be prepared, get naloxone. I think the peers are going to increase that quite a bit. They're planning some park distribution and a couple times a week besides the Jackson County Health Department to get some more naloxone. It's all auto injectors, 2 doses for every kit. So that's a lot of naloxone that's in those kits. So
Well, I know the peers that I spoke with that are on board here are really into the idea of bringing it to the people and finding out where the folks who need it are. And I really respect that. And you are working out of Douglas, Josephine, and Jackson, Dane, is that right?
Yeah, Douglas, Josephine, Jackson, Coos, and Curry.
And which one has your favorite LADPC meeting, honestly?
Oh, absolutely, Jackson.
Look at this group, right? So many good folks. All right. So Cynthia, you're back. It's good to see. Are you here still with us? This has been a long meeting. Oh, missed you. All right. Sarah, any La Clinica updates? You kind of get double duty on these.
Yeah, I'm at Birch Grove now. We've given away 240 doses of naloxone, the Evzio auto-injector type. Max's Mission and HIV Alliance helped us a lot with that. It's astounding to me, but we've just created systems to like have somebody come in, somebody get it, and give it to the patient and train them quickly and briefly. People have told us that they're really happy to get it at their doctor's office, that there's far less stigma than unfortunately they may face at the pharmacy. So it's something that I think we'll be able to continue. I'm looking at other supplies, but I thank our community partners and I'm really grateful to be able to report that to you all.
Grateful for that work. That is really needed right now. All right. Thank you. Julia, Max's Mission.
Yes, hi. So we are really excited today. I think a press release went out. Fire District 3 down here has started a Leave Behind program with our naloxone kits. So there's 6 engines. We'll have Leave Behind naloxone for people who overdose, who choose not to go to hospital. And as well as that, they have put up our naloxone boxes at every station. There's 8 stations in Jackson County. So they'll be by their emergency phones and we will be checking them once a week. So that's increasing access out to White City, Eagle Point, Central Point, Sands Valley, Agate Lake, Dodge Bridge, Gold Hill. So a lot more access to anybody. Right. Plus, we also have new offices that we're about to open up, 117 East Main. So we're excited about that. And Overdose Awareness Day this year, August 28th. And we are hoping to have booths this year. So please, we will be contacting everybody. But if you want to contact us or Eddie, we are getting ready to gear up for that. And we continue to give out a lot of naloxone. We are visiting hotels, wherever the fire victims were, where there have been multiple overdoses. We have received reports of multiple overdoses from security officers over at Burger King, racing out barefoot to help somebody overdosing in the alley, to just a lot. I think it's been really effective going out there on a weekly basis. We have a peer recovery mentor working with us, and people are really responding to that, seeing us there and coming back again and again. And of course, we're in Josephine County too. So we are keeping busy.
Absolutely. I look forward to real life coming back, and the idea of a day where we all get together is really a nice thought. So thanks for putting that back together. And yeah. All right, Kyle, Medford Treatment Center.
Hi, everyone. No real updates from us this month. I just want to say thanks to everybody for all the information, and it's really nice to be a part of this group and, getting all this information, that can be really beneficial for all of us. So yeah, that's all we got.
Okay. And Kyle, Brandon Orr and I might need some counseling about the fact that the Beavers went further than the Ducks in the tournament this year. And I know you're probably dealing with that as well. So it's a new reality, I guess.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Ouch.
Ouch. Right. All right. Kristen from Oasis.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. First, thank you so much for all the presentations. That was fantastic. And I feel like I learned a lot. I feel like the months go by really quickly in 2021. I'm like, wow, it's LADPC, and each month I've learned a lot. So thank you, everyone. Our biggest update is that we have started prenatal services, and each month we've been talking about this group starting in April. It's happening. We've had 2 groups, and it's going really well. It's a combination of behavioral health, prenatal care, It's on Wednesdays, and then also doing ongoing inpatient prenatal care. So that's our big update.
Baby work. I love it. That's great. So very cool, Kristen. Thanks for that. All right. Eddie from On Track. Eddie.
Hey, everybody. Good to see everyone. Great meeting, great presentations. Everything's going well at On Track. Our number one issue is just staffing. KDACs, peers, QMHPs, we'd love to talk to folks. It's just so frustrating to not be able to offer more services just because of lack of staff, because we know the need is out there. So appreciate all the help we can get. And Julia Jackson, thanks for addressing that in your comments, and looking forward to hearing more. Thanks, everybody.
No, thank you, Eddie. That is
Thank
truly,
you.
yeah. Point of emphasis from Julia was important, I think there. So thank you guys. John Boehm, Phoenix.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. No big changes or updates, just staying busy, and everybody keep the faith, keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. And bringing us home, Brandon and Stephanie, Reclaiming Lives.
Hey, everyone. Excited to be here. Thank you for the information presented today. Very helpful. Recovery Cafe is doing really well. After opening back up in March, we brought in 40 new people, and we're seeing about 155 a week. 14 recovery circles, including 2 focused on the Rock Court and Family Court communities. We are excited to be, and we're probably annoying you all with our emails, but if you open them, they're really cool videos of people saying what they love about Recovery Cafe. But we are in a grant funding period in a fundraising period where we can get a $10,000 match from Recovery Cafe Network in Seattle. So it's cool to have money coming from other states to this community. So we appreciate your support on that. We are also coming up against the restaurants being closed again. And so I know last time this came up, people thought we were closed. We are not closing. I just want to make that statement. Recovery Cafe is open, but starting Sunday, we will have circles only, no food, no coffee. So we can't meet in the restaurant. We can't gather in those large of numbers. We were, running pretty,
We're doing good.
we were under the COVID guidelines, but we were running pretty hot there for a month. Too, whatever.
It was great.
It was great. But so we will hold all of our circle times and stay within those guidelines, but we'll not be hosting food, and we'll be in contact with everyone we know. Please send us people during our regular hours if you have new people who want to engage in a recovery circle. So I wanted Brandon just to share a couple stories.
Hey, it's been pretty amazing. I'm still consistently helping people out of prison and jail. It's amazing to be able to be that guy for them and walk alongside them and see the success grow. We had a talent show the other night where we had a hot dog eating contest, and one of our guys fresh out of prison pounded out 17 and a half hot dogs in 5 minutes. And buns, bro, and then ate 2 pieces of pie.
Yeah.
So these are the things that we get to do still. I'm pretty sad that we're going to have the restaurant closed, because that fellowship, it matters. That connection piece, we need that here for people in recovery such as myself. Can't think of anything else right now. Was there something else?
Yeah, we had a guy come in yesterday who just released from county jail, and he showed up here and said, "You all are my relapse prevention plan."
Yeah.
So that's cool.
He's downstairs right now throwing cornhole.
Yeah, we are accounting for his time.
We thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for your support.
Well, and I really do mean it. I mean, I got a little bit cocky with Dane there, but I think this meeting, it really does inspire me to see the work that's being done in this county, and the camaraderie and the support and the fact that folks are pulling together, and we all have different pieces that we try and bring to it, with the idea that we can save lives and give people just a new opportunity and a new way to live. So thank you all for your time. This was a robust and full meeting, and we'll get together next month. But until then, thank you all.